Welcome to The Explainer. We're about to break down a pretty radical idea. What if the afterlife isn't what you think it is? What if it's actually a prison?
Yeah, that's the central question posed by philosopher Jason Jorjani in his really provocative book Thanosis. He pulls together more than a century of, let's say, unusual research to build this wild new theory about what happens when we die.
So, let's get right to it. Jorjani's main argument? It's a total shock to the system. He says the afterlife isn't some spiritual destination, it's a trap, a really, really sophisticated one.
And here's the twist. This trap isn't mystical or spiritual, it's technological. Jorjani actually brings back some really old Gnostic ideas, the ones that said our physical world is a prison, and he applies that to the afterlife. He says this whole control system is run by these beings he calls archons.
Now, don't think of archons as like demons with pitchforks. Think of them more like, cosmic managers or prison wardens. Their goal isn't about judging you or helping you evolve. Nope. It's all about control. It's about exploitation.
And that's the key takeaway right there. This whole thing is framed as technological, almost bureaucratic, not spiritual. It's just a process, a cold, calculated system set up to manage an asset. And that asset, well, that's the human soul.
Okay, but wait a second. How can you even trap a soul? I mean, for a system like this to even be possible, a soul has to be something that you can capture and manipulate, right? Well, Jorjani says it absolutely can be because we've got the whole idea of what a soul is completely wrong.
So forget the idea of some floaty, ethereal spirit. Jorjani's view is that the soul is way more like a complex digital file. It's an informational pattern. He's pulling from quantum physics here, where the idea is that information is like the bedrock of reality. So if that's true, your soul is basically software running on the hardware of the universe.
And if you think about it that way, a lot of weird paranormal stuff suddenly starts to make a weird kind of sense. Stuff that materialism just waves away. Like one soul splitting and reincarnating into two different people. Well, if a soul is just software, that's easy. You can copy a file, right? You can merge files. You can even corrupt them. It all fits.
And look, this isn't just some wild theory he pulled out of thin air. Jorjani builds his case on a ton of parapsychological research. He points especially to the work of Dr. Ian Stevenson, who spent decades, literally decades, documenting thousands of cases of kids who had these incredibly detailed, verifiable memories of past lives. It's fascinating stuff.
Okay, let's recap. The soul is software. The afterlife is a prison. So, the big question is, why? I mean, what's the point of this whole elaborate cosmic setup? Well, according to the theory, the whole system exists for one reason: to harvest a specific resource from us. And that resource is something called loosh. You can think of it as a kind of potent, refined, emotional energy.
And this is where the picture gets really chilling. Because in this framework, Earth isn't some school where our souls learn lessons. It's not a testing ground. It's just a farm.
And we're not the farmers. We're the crop. We're the livestock, being raised for a very specific harvest. And what's being harvested? Our emotional energy, especially the really potent, painful stuff. Suddenly, you look at all of human history, the endless cycles of war, suffering, and drama, and it starts to look less like a series of mistakes and more like a very, very effective farming strategy. So how do they keep this cosmic farm running? Well, Jorjani says it's with advanced psychotronic tech. First up, you've got simulated afterlives. The whole go into the light thing, meeting dead relatives. It's all apparently a show designed to trick you and lure you back in. Then, they wipe your memory between lives so you never remember the trap. And get this, he even cites researchers who claim there's actual machinery on the moon that acts like an energetic fence to keep souls from escaping Earth's orbit. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds incredibly bleak, right? Like, just completely hopeless. But here's the thing. The book doesn't end in despair. Not at all. It actually pivots and ends with this powerful call to action. Jorjani lays out a path for not just understanding this prison, but for actually breaking out of it. He calls it a Promethean rebellion, and it's a rebellion that's all about seizing control over the one thing you truly, truly own, your own consciousness.
So how do you fight back? Not with guns or bombs, but with a highly developed awareness. This path he talks about requires serious mental and psychic discipline, and you have to start now while you're still alive. We're talking about mastering things like out-of-body experiences so you can learn the lay of the land, and actually creating a plan, a protocol, for what you're going to do in those first critical moments after death to avoid the traps.
The choice, when you boil it all down, is pretty stark. As Jorjani puts it, you either rebel or you remain livestock. It's a call to take back your own sovereignty.
So look, whether you think this is a plausible theory that's built on some really overlooked evidence, or if you just think it's a wild paranoid fantasy, Thanatos definitely makes you think. It forces you to question everything you believe about life, death, and what it really means to be free. It's asking you to decide, are you just passive data in some cosmic computer system, or are you going to be the one who writes your own code?